hello again, and what is hip? And it feels really weird to be saying that again because it has been 4 or 5 months now since I last made a video for you guys. I'm back now 4 or 5 months later. I have a master's degree, and I also have a lot more gray hair than I had just half a year ago. I'm so sorry for the long hiatus. Essentially, I was just finishing up my master's program and things got really busy, and obviously that got my main priority for focus and whatnot. So I was focusing on finishing my degree, and now I've got it, and now I can put that degree to use by making more videos for you guys. No, I love doing this. It's my pastime hobby, which is why I wasn't able to focus on it as much as I would have liked. But I'm here now, and I wanted to basically show you guys what I've gotten over the past 5 months since I last made a pickups video. And I was good. I actually did not get as much as I would have thought, just because I've been so busy and all of that. So I'm my pickups are smaller, but I still got a decent selection, and the video game soundtracks. That's where I really kind of went haywire, and I got a bunch of those. So I'm excited to talk about all of this, and excited to talk about video games again in general, because it's been a while since I have. This was a year for PlayStation for me. Last year I played a bunch of Switch, and this year I really focused on basically the PlayStation 5, which was a really nice change of pace. So I got Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life, the premium edition, because this was on sale for $20. I have it on the Nintendo Switch, and for those of you who don't know, Story of Seasons, aka Harvest Moon, the original Harvest Moon creators, this is my favorite game in the series by far. It's one of my favorite GameCube games of all time, and I loved the version for Switch, and I wanted a more high fidelity, better version to play, so I got the PlayStation 5 version because it was so cheap. And I think I'm going to start this one on here, even though I've already played it on the Switch. I love the game that much. It's my cozy game, and it's a game that I love returning to time and time again. It's a bit of the black sheep of the Harvest Moon series, so I definitely think you should give it a try if you want a farming simulator that's more on the realistic side, even though it's still very Japanese inspired and anime and all of that. So this is one of my more recent pickups. I'm very, very excited to delve into this. This is Unicorn Overlords, and this is the Special Monarch Edition. And what makes this edition really cool is that it comes with a whole card game based around the video game, which I don't know if that's ever been done before. Like, I know they've collector's editions have included games like playing cards and stuff like that, but this is like a full-on card game, so I'm very curious to delve into this. This is a game I've been looking forward to for a long time, brought to us by Atlas and Vanillaware, who did Odin Sphere and Dragon's Crown and whatnot. It's a tactical RPG, which I love. That's one of my favorite genres. The art style is absolutely stunning. So this is Star Ocean, the Second Story R. This is originally a PlayStation 1 game that I actually own, but I hadn't gotten around to playing. And I saw this was being released, and it sold out. The PlayStation 5 version actually sold out, which I was not expecting. I wasn't expecting it to sell very well, which is probably why it sold out. It was a smaller print run. You could get the Switch one actually relatively easily, but I wanted the best graphics possible for this game, because this is a game that's been on my back burner for years now. But they did another print run of this, and now it seems to be a little easier to get. So I got this. I think it was on sale for like $30 too. So I absolutely could not pass this up. I think this is going to be the next game that I play, because I've been in a JRPG mood. Again, I haven't been able to play too many JRPGs over the past several months, and I've been too tired to, where your mind is just like so exhausted from work, and it's just like it's so hard to focus on a singular thing. So I haven't been able to get into a JRPG, but now I'm finally in that mood again, and I think this is going to be the next one. This is an interesting little game that I didn't know anything about until relatively recently. This is called Air Twister. And at first glance, you might think that this is some sort of shovelware, kind of just cheap game with not a lot of heart behind it. And that's kind of what I thought at first until I read more about it. And the original creator of Space Harrier, one of my favorite video games of all time and one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, was actually the person behind this game. And upon hearing that, I looked into it and I started looking at some gameplay, and I was like, it looks kind of cheap and it doesn't look super well made at first glance, and surely enough, the graphics really aren't that great. However, this was one of the biggest surprises over the past year. The gameplay is a lot of fun. It's very Space Harrier-esque, and it gets really hard. Basically, and it's so much bigger than I would have ever expected. You do your first run through, and you're just like, man, this is really easy. Really, really easy. I don't know what the hype is behind this. But then you play it again, and you're supposed to play it more and more, and there's like this overworld map where you can upgrade your character, and it gets harder and harder and harder, because I thought it was a walk in the park originally. No, this game is hard. This game is really hard, and the soundtrack is like nothing I've ever heard of before. It's like they ripped this straight from a 90s Sega arcade game with the vocals, and it's literally a throwback right to the 90s, and it's so much fun. I couldn't recommend this game more than I already am. So much fun and relatively unknown, and you can get this for the cheap. I think I got this for $15 or something like that. It's on the Switch too, which I actually did pick up a Switch copy as well. But yeah, just a lot of fun, a lot of customization options for the characters and weapons and stat upgrades and all of that fun stuff. And I still haven't beaten it yet because it is so extremely balls to the wall hard. So highly recommend Air Twister. This is another game that I've been hearing a lot about, and I was waiting for this to go on sale for $30. That was the price I was willing to pay, and surely enough, it finally did after what seems like a really long time. This is Armored Core 7 or 6, Fires of Rubicon, and basically this is almost like a Dark Souls-esque mech game, which has been around since I believe the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era. This was reviewed very, very highly. I'm normally not super into mech games, but I love the Dark Souls kind of gameplay, you know, how it's hard and all of that, and this has all of that, and it's super flashy, super Japanese, and I love it. And yeah, something a little different to add to my catalog, since, you know, I normally don't tend to stray too far away from JRPGs and story-based games, so I thought it would be kind of refreshing to break into some new ground for me and to try a new series that I haven't really played before. So super excited to try out Armored Core 6. Speaking of JRPGs that I've yet to finish, Persona 3 Reload. Where do I even begin? I started on the original Persona 3 back on the PlayStation 2, and I remember I played it pretty far and then I just stopped playing. Not because I didn't love the game, not because it was too hard, it's just one of those things where you just kind of stop. And I hadn't played it in like probably 5 to 10 years. And so when this was announced, I decided I was going to return to it, so I waited. I didn't go back to the PlayStation 2 version, I waited for this one, and I've been playing this one a bunch. I've fallen in love with it. I love it so much. The story, the characters, it's super dark, which I love. It's that old traditional Shin Megami Tensei gameplay style. And I haven't played it for a couple months because school got busy and finishing the master's degree program and all of that. But now that that's done, I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to move on to Star Ocean. But I don't know how much longer I have of this, because it's a long game, as many of you know. It's probably around 100 plus hours. But I am enjoying this one very much and very excited to return to this. And I will probably end up getting the DLC, which has caused some controversy that they didn't include it in the original game, even though it was included in the PlayStation 2 version. That's a whole bunch of just wonderful, wonderful business shenaniganery. But very much looking forward to finishing this, and it's so much fun. I'm a big fan of the Persona series, and well, that game is one of the reasons why. So this is a game that I heard about from a smaller YouTube channel who said it was pretty good, and it's relatively unknown. It's Cry Machina by NIS, and apparently it's this almost kind of similar to Nier, and it's I don't know. I really don't know much about it other than it's kind of like Nier, and the story was supposedly pretty good. But then I did some more researching, and apparently the story is kind of mediocre. I don't know if I'll ever get to this. I got it for the cheap again, but the art style does look good, and I know this is a sequel to another game that I can't remember what that one was called. But yeah, it might be fun to kind of mess around with for a little bit. I can't remember if I showed this in my last pickups or if I did not. Again, it's been like 5-6 months, and I try to put things to the side, and you know, it's been 5-6 months, so I may forget a couple of things. I may show some things I've already showed off before, but I'll show this one again if I already did. Super Crazy Rhythm Castle. This was on the cheap, but I remember this was being shown off in like a PlayStation State of Play or something like that, and it looked really interesting. It's a rhythm game, but it's also like an adventure game. I have no idea. I don't know what the reviews are. All I know is it's by Konami, and I love me some rhythm games, and this one just looked like it had a very unique kind of style. So I do plan on playing this at some point. Have you guys tried Super Crazy Rhythm Castle? I think it's on the Switch as well. But if you have, what did you think of it? Oh boy. So there are not too many games that really just take my life away. This was one of those games. Very rarely do I play a game for more than 50 hours. There's 2 games in the past, probably 3-ish years or so that I could think of, that actually did. That was Tears of the Kingdom, and it was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I finally beat this yesterday, or 2 days ago, after 80 hours. 80 hours it took me to beat this game, and I remember going into this thinking, oh, it's not going to be very content heavy, and you know, they're going to nix so many things. Oh my gosh, this is one of the most feature-packed games I've ever played. This is a contender for being one of my favorite games of all time. This was such an amazing experience. I'm actually making another video about this game, not a review of this game, but I think the impact that this game potentially could have on the modern gaming industry. I mean, it made such an impact on me. And for those of you who don't know, I went to college for music and whatnot, and I've been starting to do video game composition and film scoring, and it's really kind of made me look at these mediums in a different light, and this is no exception. Just the amount of work and the amount of thinking that went into this game, I mean, I couldn't even begin to believe how long it took them to think and to even put this together. It was a magical experience. One that I don't think we get too much anymore nowadays, but a masterful game. I would give this game a solid 9.5 out of 10. It blew my socks off, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I loved Remake too, the first of the trilogy, but I do like this one a lot more. Okay, so moving on, we'll show you the one singular retro game that I got in the past 5 months or so. I don't think that's right. I think I've gotten more, but I can't remember what I picked up. But not much more than this. Maybe 1 or 2 games that I'm forgetting. This is Shining Wisdom for the SEGA SATURN, and I actually already own this game. However, I was missing the manual, and the disc was kind of cracked. It still works, but it was a copy that I got for cheap many years ago, and this one popped up for a really good price. I get $100 for this, and it's complete in box. Only thing is, the manual is kind of pretty bad shape, and I think it's missing the last page. But for $100, I was like, I can't pass that up, because again, it's so hard buying Saturn games without their manual. With the intention of picking up a manual one day is next to impossible. It's so hard to find manual-only Saturn stuff, especially for rare games and working design games like this. So you essentially just have to buy the game complete if you want it complete. But yeah, Shining Wisdom is an RPG for the Saturn that was not reviewed super greatly. It's very mediocre. It's like a 6-7 out of 10. I've played a bit of it. The writing's pretty funny. It's that stereotypical 90s kind of small development team writing where the just most random things are thrown in the text that kind of don't relate to the game at all, especially with localization teams. They did this a lot back in the 90s, but it's got a lot of charm. I do enjoy what I've played. It's similar to you can kind of think Zelda, some Zelda elements and stuff like that. It's not turn-based, but yeah, Shining Wisdom. Have you guys played Shining Wisdom? I'd be very curious to know what your thoughts are on this relatively obscure game. Look at that artwork, just absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, this copy did not win $10,000. Alright, now onto the Switch games. Relatively small lineup, about one Switch game a month. So, the big boy of them all, Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. This came out. I mean, what can I say? It's one of my favorite games of all time. I actually just beat the GameCube version maybe 2 years ago. So it's still relatively fresh in my mind, and I started playing this, and I don't think I'm gonna go back to it just because it's still already so fresh in my mind. And there have been some leaks about some 4K and some higher frame rate stuff being found in like the code of this game. So potentially the Switch 2 may update this a little bit, make it 60 frames a second at 4K, something like that. So I'm gonna hold off, wait to see if that's actually true, because again, it's so fresh, and I would much rather play this in a higher fidelity version. But it's a beautiful, beautiful game. This remake is stunning. 30 FPS really doesn't matter at all. I don't notice it that much. But yeah, one of the greatest games of all time, and some of the best writing I've ever seen in a video game. And the music, don't even get me started on that. I love the remade soundtrack. I think I like the original GameCube version more, but the remastered soundtrack is stunning as well. Sea of Stars. This is going to be the game I play on my plane trip home. I've been waiting to play this. It was digital only for a while, but it was announced last year that they were going to be doing a physical version. I wanted the physical version, so I just waited, and finally got this version from Best Buy, I think, or maybe Amazon, I can't remember. And yeah, it's Chrono Trigger inspired, one of the greatest RPGs of all time, and the art style is really stunning. And it reviewed really well too, I think. So that's just wonderful. Usually you only get 2 of the 3, and usually they're 7 out of 10s or something like that. Not that I always rely on video game reviews and whatnot, but I mean, it is good it helps to get a baseline understanding of how it is being received. But yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about this game. Very excited to delve into this on my plane ride home. Air Twister. Once again, I liked it so much I had to buy it twice. Yeah, I can't imagine the Switch version running really well though, because it's very much not a super optimized game on the PlayStation 5. So, if you have the choice to get the PlayStation 5 over the Switch, I'm assuming the PlayStation 5 is the way to go. So, okay, one of these I definitely did not get in the past 5 months, but I'll show them both anyway. But one of them I did get in the past 5 months. The double pack from SEGA for the Switch, the 2 double packs that they've released, Sonic Mania, Sonic Racing, Sonic Forces, and Super Monkey Ball. Again, I tried to wait for these to drop down to $15, $20, which they very rarely do, if ever, which is kind of surprising, but they finally did. I got them both here. I'm gonna keep these. I bought strictly probably for collecting purposes, just because it's so cool, and it reminds me of like the Sega CD double packs that they did back in the day, because you don't see this too often, especially from big third-party developers. Used to be first-party developer Sega, but yeah, super cool. Now I got 2 art books. Well, 1 art book and 1 strategy guide. I got the Tears of the Kingdom strategy guide. Again, I can't remember if I've mentioned this in the past video, but Tears of the Kingdom, I loved it. I loved it so much more than Breath of the Wild. I did not connect with Breath of the Wild really that much at all. It was very average for me. Tears of the Kingdom, I dropped 70 hours in that game, which was crazy, and I feel like there's still so much more that I had to discover. But I love Tears of the Kingdom. Still not my preferred style for Zelda. Twilight Princess, to me, was the last great Zelda game. But I love Tears of the Kingdom. And because of that, I had to get the Collector's Edition strategy guide, because it's really nice to get a strategy guide every once in a while. It brings me back to my younger days. But yeah, this was super cheap. I think it was like $15, $20. It was on sale, which is why I bought it. Yeah, I had to pick this up. It's very well made. It's very nice looking, and I mean, a nice hardcover strategy guide like this for $20. Any day, I'll do that. This one I'm very excited for. This just came in the mail today, so I haven't even opened it yet, but I'm very excited too. This is The Art of Final Fantasy XVI. Very controversial game. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people do like it. I loved it. I really, really loved it. I loved the story, and I loved how, not that it's super realistic, but how realistic some of the characters really seem to be, especially Jill, who is that one right there. She's now one of my favorite video game characters of all time. Fell in love with her character. But the art style in this game is really stunning. As you can tell just from looking at the front cover, it looks very similar to like Bravely Default and even Octopath Traveler and those. I wonder if the same artist worked on those games as well. But yeah, this was, I've been seeing it around bookstores a whole bunch for like $40, $50. I just couldn't, I didn't really want to spend that. And I checked on Amazon and it was $20 on sale. So I had to pick it up for $20. Very excited to open this up and check it out. Final Fantasy XVI is such a good game. Not a perfect game, had its fair share of flaws for sure, and not my ideal Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth very much is. I even enjoyed the battle system in there, because I'm very much a turn-based kind of guy, but the way they mix turn-based with kind of like action-based combat was really masterfully done. Final Fantasy XVI kind of did it, but just not in a way that I thought was as good as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So, moving on, I got some amiibos, and I don't pick up amiibos. I very, very rarely pick up amiibos. The only exception is when I beat a game and I fall in love with it. Then I'll pick up an amiibo or something from that game. So, Twilight Princess, they did a reprint of the Wolf Link amiibo, which was going for like $50-ish or something, and so being able to pick one up at MSRP was really, really wonderful. And the fact that you can add Wolf Link to Breath of the Wild is super cool. I've always wanted to try that. And Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda game of all time, so I had to pick this up. Breath of the Wild, again, it's not my favorite Zelda game, but I love the art and I love the design and the characters in there, so I had to pick this up. This is so cool. The Guardian amiibo, I mean, this is huge. This is $20, I think, so they did a reprint of this as well. And yeah, I had to pick that up. And lastly, I did play and beat Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I have a love-hate relationship with the Xenoblade Chronicles series. 3 is the first that I actually played and beat. I tried 2, I liked it, but then I got bored with it. Xenoblade Chronicles 1, I have started and stopped so many times. And it's not because it's bad, I don't know. But something about 3 actually hooked my attention. I gave it an 8 out of 10 personally. Towards the end, I started to kind of lose a little bit of interest, but it was still really good. And I did enjoy the characters, so I had to go out and buy the little double pack of the characters from that game. So that is exactly what I did. Okay, now moving on to the section that I'm very excited to talk about. This is my video game vinyl pickups. Mostly video game vinyl, a couple not. I've been listening to a bunch of records over the past 5-6 months because, again, I've been so busy. I haven't really had time or the attention span to really play video games, but I have been able to put a record on in the background while I do my work and stuff. So that's why I got a little more than usual. So these first 2 are actually some bootleg fan-made copies of Evo from the Super Nintendo. So this is super cool. I've never played Evo, but I've always wanted to. And somebody was doing a fan release of the soundtrack on vinyl. This is not licensed in any way, just a labor of love. And yeah, I had to pick that up. It is a killer soundtrack. It's the first time I've ever listened to this soundtrack. Absolutely love it. The next one is also a fan-made thing for Waterworld, which is another Super Nintendo game based off of a movie, I think. I have not seen or played either. The music is amazing. Really, really good. I'm definitely going to keep my eye out for the Super Nintendo game now. It's always kind of cool to listen to a game soundtrack first before ever even playing the game or even seeing gameplay of the game. It's kind of that's a very old school experience. I used to do that when I was younger, when I just had access to the soundtracks. I'd listen to the soundtracks on YouTube or something like that before I had the game in my possession. I know a lot of people did that in the 90s where they would get the CD or something and listen to the soundtrack and just kind of think about what the game would be like. Music is very, very powerful. And yeah, I think when I eventually play Evo, I'm gonna have a much deeper connection, I think, to that game, just now that I have this whole soundtrack ingrained in my mind. So this next one is called Final Symphony 2, and I have Final Symphony 1 as well later in here. This is a repress of Final Symphony 1 and 2 that was released several years back, I think. And basically it is just a live orchestra rendition of a bunch of Final Fantasy tunes. Really, really beautiful stuff. Really well put together. There's a 3-disc set, and yeah, it's wonderful. I love these Final Fantasy orchestral arrangements that have been coming out recently. It seems like, you know, you have, I think it's Distant Worlds and some other Square Enix published stuff, but I mean, sign me up, man. I'm all for it. So these are not video game related, but they are Japan related. So I think it was Light in the Attic. Yes, Light in the Attic Records released a bunch of compilations of Japanese kind of 80s city pop vocalists. And finding some of these old 80s Japanese vocalists on vinyl or even CD over here in the States is next to impossible. And when you do, it's super, super expensive. So they released this whole 3 bundle packs. There's 6 records here with a whole bunch of different artists ranging from Henri to Hiroshi Sato. I probably mispronounced that. Shigeru Suzuki. Lots of people, and it's all really, really good. A lot of people that I haven't heard of and that I've been introduced to through these compilations, which has been really wonderful because I love listening to J-pop on my free time. But yeah, This was like 45, 50 bucks for the bundle. I mean, an absolute steal. It was on sale, but no, it's such a great collection. Very much love this. So this is another bootleg, another fan-made, made with love copy of Final Fantasy, the NES soundtrack on vinyl. And it's actually cool because it has a live guitar version as well that I don't know where they grabbed that from, if it was the fan who made this and they did a cover of some Final Fantasy track. But look at this. This is really, really cool. I actually got this from a wonderful guy from the record community. He was super, super nice. And yeah, I've never really seen this before. But I mean, look at that. They even printed a little map, which is super cool. And I think, oh, that's it. Just super, just really, really great. And it's really well made too. Final Fantasy is one of those game series that really kind of changed my life and changed many people's life when it comes to video games. And another game that also changed my life in a very impactful way, Animal Crossing. Oh, this is so cool. This, again, made with love, made by a fan. And I got this from the same wonderful guy who sold me Final Fantasy. He sold me this as well. And I mean, this is magical. The GameCube Animal Crossing started it all for me. And I mean, I'm in love with the music. It's ingrained in my mind. I would play this after school, before school, back in the early mid-2000s, and I always looked forward to rainy days so I could catch those red snappers and barred knife jaws and those rare fish to sell for lots and lots of dollars. But no, I mean, this is a game that even my mom played. I think my mom was the one who introduced me to Animal Crossing way back when. And yeah, I've been a fan of Animal Crossing ever since. The first will always be my favorite, followed by City Folk after that. I didn't connect to New Horizons really at all, but I love the music in New Horizons. But I love this music much more. I mean, probably from nostalgia, but it's so weird and so quirky, and it's just a really wonderful soundtrack. And this is such a wonderful fan-made piece of art. I mean, it's really, really cool. Sonic Frontiers. So Data Disc was releasing, they were releasing Nights into Dreams on vinyl, and from the SEGA SATURN. And you know, I normally don't buy from Data Disc too much because their shipping is really expensive because it's from somewhere in Europe. And so when I do buy from them, I always buy a couple of other things as well. Just, you know, I can make the shipping cost worth it. And this was one of them. And I have not played Sonic Frontiers. I really want to. And I hadn't listened to any of the music. Unfortunately, the music is really not for me. I did listen to this whole thing. I just didn't connect to it as much as I thought I would. But it's still a very cool looking vinyl nonetheless. This, however, I did connect to much more. This is Fantasy Zone by Hero, one of my favorite music composers of all time, behind Space Harrier and whatnot. I've never actually played Fantasy Zone, but I mean, look at the artwork. I mean, that's so cool. I love what Data Disc is doing. I mean, they were really one of the pioneers who really started pressing video game music on vinyl. So we have a lot to thank them for in the vinyl community. So this is Final Symphony 1. This one is also really good. I do like one of the Final Symphonies more. I can't remember which one it was, but I've listened to both of them countless times over the past couple of months. I definitely got my money's worth. But yeah, another really cool package. This one I have not listened to, but I'm excited to. This was on sale for like $10 or $15. This is Virtua Fighter. I believe this is the arcade version. Oh no, it's the arcade version, and they have the Sega Saturn version on here, which is super cool. I love Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter 2 specifically. That's the one I played. No, Virtua Fighter 1. I played a bunch of Virtua Fighter 1 on the Sega Saturn. That was my very first Sega Saturn game. It was a Japanese import copy of Virtua Fighter Remix, because it was one of the cheapest games that you could get back then. But yeah, a lot of memories playing Virtua Fighter, and it's super cool to have the soundtrack in my possession. I mean, this is one of the last games I would think that would actually get a vinyl pressing, because I feel like nobody's really talking about Virtua Fighter, which is a crying shame. This is Mega Man Legends 2. This was also really cheap. I've never played Mega Man Legends 1 or 2. I would like to at one point in time. But yeah, this was super cheap, which is why I picked it up, and because I have the intention of playing Mega Man Legends at some point. But I've heard wonderful things about this series. And the guy who sold me Animal Crossing and Final Fantasy drew this little portrait of Vivian from Paper Mario, one of my favorite video game characters, so I thought that was really, really cool. I mean, it's always so nice to get these little surprises from people, because like it makes you really realize that, you know, we're all people. We're all, you know, not just thinking about, you know, one thing, thinking about business, thinking about money, thinking about jobs, you know, like, you know, just the little things like that really kind of bring me a little closer to what humanity should be. No, but really, really wonderful. It was such a pleasant surprise, too. I love it when people include extra things like that, really personal touches. And this is why I made that data disc purchase. This is Nights into Dreams, the Sega Saturn soundtrack put onto vinyl. Such a wonderful, wonderful pressing here. Nights into Dreams was, man, I remember when I first got my Saturn back in the early 2010s. I was in, I think, middle school or high school, and Nights was the one that was like my grail back then. Specifically the copy with the box and the 3D pad controller. And I mean, it was always too much out of my price range back then, like $100, which is cheap now. And then I finally got one for like 60, 70 bucks, I remember, and I was so happy. And I played Nights into Dreams so much. And I play Christmas Nights into Dreams every year. It's a tradition for me. I've done so on the channel for the past 2 years now, which is crazy to think. But yeah, absolutely love Nights into Dreams. And the cover is actually glow in the dark, which is kind of cool. Now the last thing I have here is not video game related, but I thought this was just so cool. I got the Star Wars trilogy on Laserdisc, and I got this brand new for like 40 bucks. And I just thought this was the coolest thing ever. So I do have a Laserdisc player, and for those of you who are not too familiar with that, basically it's the video format that came out before DVD, but after VHS, and it had superior audio and video to VHS. And it's all the 3 original Star Wars movies, and this really cool kind of collector's package. You got a little booklet here, which is really cool. I did not need to get this, but I wanted to. And the funny thing is, when I got this, our internet was actually out for 2 or 3 days, and I had nothing to do at that point in time. And I was in the mood to watch Star Wars, and I was looking, I didn't have any copies of Star Wars except for the Laserdisc versions. So I actually watched all 3 original movies on Laserdisc, so I actually got my money's worth. And the funny thing is that the video quality really was not that bad. Like, it actually was pretty decent, a lot more decent than I was expecting. Yeah, that was just a fun little throwback period for me over the past half a year. But I believe that is it for my pickups. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for sticking with me, and for the around, I think, like the 60 to 100 or plus subscribers that have subscribed over the past half of a year, even though I haven't been uploading. So I very much appreciate you guys as well. And now that school is done for good, I do plan on making some more videos. I have a couple more videos planned. I have my Neo Geo A Year with the Neo Geo CDZ. That is coming out over the next probably couple weeks. I'm filming that one later today, so I'm really excited to post that one, and I have some other videos planned as well. But I plan to get more involved with this community now because I've missed you all so much, and I have so many comments that I have to catch up on as well since I have not been checking them. So I'm sorry about that if you've commented and I haven't responded. I do plan on doing that very soon. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one.